everyone. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you're watching God, Sex, and Love. Tonight, I'm going to be chatting with Miss Page Rey. She is a coach, a mentor, and an online entrepreneur. So, if you're ready to learn more about her, then stay tuned.
That's right.
Welcome back to God, Sex, and Love. I am here with the lovely Miss Page Rey. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Miracle. I'm so excited to be here, and I love the topic that we're about to talk about. I think a lot of women try to run away from it, but secretly they actually want to talk about it. So thank you for inviting me, and I crave for conversations like this.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm very excited about it as well. And I'm glad that you are excited about it too. I mean, I know we kind of touched base a little bit about, the title and stuff. And like I was just saying, I feel like I'm always telling people like the backstory of where it came from and all that type of stuff. So, I mean, you might not have time for that long story. We can talk about it later if you want. But yes, I'm excited that you are excited. So that I'm, yes, looking forward to this conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and everything like that?
Yeah, so I'm based in Canada. I'm currently right now here in Lipa, Philippines. I'm taking care of some investments, and also we've been feeling called to actually do some sort of mission, something about mission and helping out people here. So I've been here for about 6 months now. It's been a calling that we have deep in our hearts that kind of, we kind of waited for it because of the whole pandemic situation. But after 2020 passed, we were like, look, we don't know where in the world is gonna go. We don't know how long this pandemic is gonna go. So we might as well just jump and just do it. So that's why we're here. What I do for a living is I'm an online business consultant. So I work a lot with entrepreneurs and coaches who want to launch their businesses, but particularly they want to scale their business, but know that they actually are often shooting themselves in the foot because they have unnecessary baggages around money. So if you go and look me up on different podcasts, I often talk about the mindset and the emotions behind money and how we can, overcome unnecessary baggages so that we can actually bring out our calling and make that come to fruition. Because, we need money to fund the message, and we need money to just make sure that we're reaching more people to make the difference that we're here to make. So that's what I do for a living. But on a personal note, I am a wife and a mother of 2 kids. And, I'm at this stage in my life where I'm just so blessed that I would say, when I was a teenager, I don't know what it was, but my dream, my ultimate dream was to become a wife and a mother. And that might sound cliche, or maybe for some of my generation might sound like, ew, like there's a lot of people now in my generation who don't really want to have kids, and I totally respect that. But for me, that was my total dream. And so, even though I was always the single one in the group, look, I'm
Mm.
living the dream. So it's really interesting that we're here to talk about God, sex, and love. I think that's been a really big deal, especially as women and especially as Christians. It's definitely something that we need to talk about.
Yes, I agree. Look, sounds like there's a lot we need to talk about. I don't know. I might hit you up for your services after this. I'm definitely can relate to all those things you were just saying. I mean, walking by faith and stepping out on faith with doing, your big move and everything that you all just
Mhm.
did. And then I could definitely, probably use your assistance when it comes to getting more. I mean, because I have business endeavors, but it's like not to say I feel like I've gotten so far with it, but I don't know how to go viral, right? I don't know how to like get, so many listeners or so many followers and all that type of stuff. And if that's something you're familiar with, hey, maybe we need to touch base on all of that. And and yeah, like you just said, I mean, obviously, GSL is here for a reason. I was trying to ultimately, I guess, fill in the large gap that there is
Hmm.
with conversations and whatnot. And obviously, we talk about everything on here, uh, but I didn't want to shy away from these conversations either. So GSL it is, man. And so yeah, like I just said, I'm glad that you were excited and ran towards this opportunity to talk about it versus running away.
I loved it when I saw your message. It was pretty exciting, actually.
Well, I'm excited to hear what you got to say. Yes, yes, yes. Um, so man, like I just said, there's so many things to touch on and talk about. Now, it's funny that you said the situation about, that you desire to be a mom and a wife, and how look, our generation is running away from it, or what I'm learning. And now you can tell me what you think about it. But what as I'm doing like my daily Bible study and stuff like that, I'm noticing that we tend to live the opposite of whatever the Bible says. Like the Bible says we need to be married. The world is saying, oh no, don't be married. The Bible says have children. The world is like, oh no, don't have children. Like everything, it's like I can clearly see that everything's like the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. And so the narratives that are pushed out are that you can't be successful with children. You can't be, whatever, whatever. And all these different things. And I can say that like, I'm a mom now as well. And but I like went it's so funny. So a few months before we got pregnant, I was doing this little series on YouTube and I was calling it Miracles Mirror, and it was like me vlogging, my life and whatnot. And I remember one episode in particular, I just kind of just talked the whole time about like how I didn't necessarily feel like, how can I say, ready, I guess you would say. I didn't necessarily feel ready at the time to be a mom because I was trying to, build my business and,
Hmm.
focus on getting some things off the ground first or whatever. And I just knew that it was going to change my life. Like, I knew that everything
Oh,
was going to
yeah.
change. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. So, and I was talking about that. And when, it was so crazy. Technically, it was like months later. But the funny thing was, I had put out that episode. Like, I filmed all these episodes months in advance, and then I started to put it out like the next year. And so wouldn't you know, like it was like after that episode came out, lo and behold, we found out we're pregnant. So it was like, okay, now I gotta update people because technically this was months ago when I said that, and it just
Craziness.
right, right. And I can say that, as somebody, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and whatnot, and I don't know if it's just a Southern thing or what, but there is this narrative that it's like, once you become a mom or whatever the case is, like put goals and dreams and all that to the side. You got to just do what you got to do for your child. And I get that, but at the same time, so I struggled with that, right? Because especially when I was
Hmm.
pregnant, I was like, what is my life going to look like? Like I'm an actress. I'm somebody that has like multiple gigs doing shows and stuff. Like,
Hmm.
you know, what is that going to look like? Do I need to put all that to the side? Do I need to go try to find a real job or, and all
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
you know? So I don't know. I feel like I just touched based on a lot of that stuff. But what would you say, like, what would you say to that about like things being the opposite of like, the generation around us or the things that they say in the world that we are supposed to do or we shouldn't do being opposite of what the Bible says, and then also this whole thing about motherhood.
Yeah, two things actually. So I believe a lot of it is driven by fear, especially, our generation. We often have experienced that. And look, I was born and raised in the Philippines. I migrated to Canada. And so I've seen that difference in culture. But regardless of where I came from, it doesn't matter if you're from a developing country or if you're in a developed country, like Canada or even the US. I work with a lot of clients who are all over the US, and it's supposedly the richest or, the most powerful country, right? And if you think about it, a lot of my clients actually, the issues that we face about money is so common to humanity that we all relate to it. And so for me, this whole idea that you can't be successful if you have a family or kids is definitely driven by the fears that we've experienced growing up about money, right? Seeing our parents argue about money, or feeling like, maybe your parents did do everything that they wanted to do to provide for you, but you know that, you maybe still felt like it wasn't enough. Like you could see them struggling, right? And so it's all these fears that we witnessed, that we experienced growing up, that really brings on that idea that you can't be successful. Like, I know I have a friend actually who's dead set on not having kids. And the reason is, she feels like her parents are relying on her for their retirement plan, right? So meaning their parents have worked so hard to put them to school, through college, but they weren't able to save up for themselves. And so now she's thinking about, okay, how will my parents retire? I'm going to have to provide for them, right? And she doesn't want that same burden for her children, if she ever does have children. So it's definitely driven by fear. But also, actually, the Bible, you mentioned that in the Bible, we often, we're told to get married, have kids, and stuff like that. But actually, I believe it was Apostle Paul in the New Testament where he said, do not get married. If I were to have an advice, do not get married and do not have, I don't know if there was a specificity about not having children, but obviously in the Bible, if you're not married, you can't have children, right? But the whole idea there is Apostle Paul was saying it's really hard, right? And it's truth. It's definitely a lot easier if I were just single, minding my own business, not having to worry about other people's emotions and other people's dreams and goals. But now, as a wife, as a mother, I'm not just thinking about my own dreams and goals. I'm now considering my husband's dreams and goals, my children's dreams and goals. And you really have, it's not that you're changing your dreams the moment you have a family. It's just that there's more, it's a little bit more complex, because now you're trying to create a family dream, where you can all interdependently, and I love that word, interdependent. You encourage independence in the household, in the family. But being interdependent means I can be myself. I can have my own dreams and goals, but I trust and I know that my family will help and support me, right? So it's like this interdependent goal. So imagine these are like the different family members. They're interdependent with one another. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to let go of your dreams. But yes, I believe that getting married and having children is not for the faint of heart. It's definitely tough, parenting, as much as I show off my happy family moments on Instagram, there are times where my children would have a breakdown and I'd feel like I'm losing it too, right? It's just the fact of life. You're not going to have that emotional breakdown from a dog, I mean, I'm just saying, I love pets and all that, but I'm just saying it's very different because now you're dealing with another human being. But that being said, I certainly had that fear too. So I got married at the age of 21. And for my family, I came from a family of immigrants. So a lot of them, both my family and my husband's family, they weren't really supportive of us deciding that we wanted to get married at that, at that age. Because first of all, we didn't have a career set out for us. We literally just got out of school and, we haven't even had a solid career that we can keep going on, right? And they also came from a place where, look, we worked so hard to move all of us here in Canada so that we can have a better, better chance for our future. And you're screwing it up. Basically, they're saying you're screwing it up for getting married because, look, I was once there. I chose love, and look at us. We're having a hard time, right? So that was the narrative, and I was definitely fearful. I share this a lot with other people in different podcasts when I talk about money. But really, how I jump started my online business was because of how sad I was in my marriage. Like, we were literally first year in our marriage, and it was like we were crying and fighting all the time about money. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what my parents warned me about, right? And that's what shifted in me. Look, this is my dream. I actually wanted to have a family, a husband, and eventually I didn't have kids then, but I want to have kids. I want to have the family that I didn't have because I came from a broken family. So that was my ultimate dream. And I knew that I couldn't let those issues and fears about money hinder my marriage. And that's why, from then on, this was in 2014, I started in this journey of really understanding all my emotions and where all of these fears are coming from. And look, if I can share my story that I was once a girl living in Toronto, and if anyone here is from Toronto, it's like New York. If you're getting paid minimum wage in New York, you're not going to survive. You're going to die, you know? So look, that was where I started. And now I consider my family financially free. Every month we go on a road trip. We, like I'm able to bring my kids out. We enjoy ourselves. We have multiple investments. And I share this because I want to show you that a simple girl like me who literally was getting paid minimum wage, picking and packing boxes, working at a warehouse, dead in her brain because, I'm very creative. I took the risk. I jumped. I tried to understand, and I'm still in this journey of continuously learning about my emotions, my relationship with money, and just listening to my God-given calling and following that path. And we've reached a certain point in our finances where, don't tell me that you can't be successful if you have kids or if you're married.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Man, what a beautiful testimony there. Thank you so much for the transparency as well with, sharing about your family life and everything like
Hmm.
that, man. That's very inspiring. I hope that anybody that just heard that is definitely blessed by you sharing your testimony just now. Oh goodness. Okay, so we
Thank you.
just started coming at you. We just started. So when you mentioned your family saying that you kind of like ruined their plan in regards to, they moved you all there, and then now you're saying that you're back in the Philippines. So what brought you back to the Philippines? Like, I know you say you were led and everything like that. So what did that transition look like, and what was the inspiration behind?
Yeah, so first of all, when I quit my job in 2014, the whole idea was, oh my gosh, I need to get out of winter. Canada has, a very brutal winter, and we've lived and moved in different cities, East Coast, West Coast, middle of Canada. Winter's the same. And so for me, if you spend 6 months, I'm just, obviously it's not 6 months for every single place in Canada, but at the max of it, it kind of feels like 6 months of the year is spent in winter and you're just huddled inside the house. And I love staying active. I love going outdoors, hiking and doing all these fun activities outdoors in the sun. And so it feels like I just feel like I'm not making the most out of my time and our potential as a family. And so the whole idea was to get out of winter. And we thought about many different places. We thought about Australia, we thought about Panama, but eventually it led to the Philippines because it was also what I witnessed in my business. So there was a time where I was working with a company and we were hiring a lot of Filipinos, overseas, helping with a company. Basically, just this company was paying, whatever. Obviously, it's like $5, like very small rate, which was, maybe for Filipinos back home, it's decent amount, but as a Filipino in Canada, I wasn't getting paid that. I was definitely getting paid 5 times more. Even, like, so there was something about that kind of made me feel uncomfortable because the idea of working online is we have the freedom to be able to, the internet basically made everything an equal playing field.
Mhm.
And so when that was the system that was happening, and obviously this is very common to a lot of companies overseas because it's a lot cheaper to pay labor for labor abroad. I just felt like there was something there. I know what my countrymen were experiencing. People wanted to elevate their lifestyle too, just like I did. I have that ambition to elevate my life, and I know these people also have the ambition to elevate their lives. And yet, the opportunities that's given to them or that they feel is enough for them is just below minimum wage. You know what I mean? Like if you compare it to Western standard. And so something there just kind of struck a chord. And I felt like, I wanted to change this because if you speak to a lot of Filipinos and perhaps, even other countries who's very common to, migrate to different countries, there's a cultural mindset for our country or the Filipinos that the best goal that you can have for yourself is to move abroad, right? Because
Mhm.
everything is, there's just better opportunities. The grass is greener on the other side, all that mindset. And literally, that's the biggest dream for anyone. And I remember when I was in Canada and, I told you about being married in the first year and we were struggling. And we couldn't ask our parents for help because we needed to prove ourselves, right? Like, I didn't want them saying, hey, I told you so, don't want them saying that. So we really roughed it out. Like me and my husband, when we got married, and we were living in Canada. I had my first child, and I remember I was pregnant and we were renting literally like a closet sized bedroom in my friend's house. That's all we could afford. And it was, then I'm getting all these messages from my friends who are back home in the Philippines saying, hey, can you help me move to Canada? Is there a job there that's hiring who can help me get visa, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
They don't know what crap I'm going through.
Right.
And I'm thinking, look, it's not that easy. My life here, like literally, if you see my life, it's such an embarrassment for the immigrant community because this is not what you aspire for, right? Like when you move abroad, you aspire to actually improve in your life, not live in a closet. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And definitely that was so frustrating because I'm getting a lot of messages from people asking me, to help them migrate abroad. And I know for a fact, and that this was around the time that I started working on my online business. I know that there was a possibility that we can all earn good income regardless of where you are in the world. The internet literally has made it an equal playing field. Now, I decided to move here eventually in 2020 with my family because we really feel this calling where we want to set an example to other Filipinos that, we want to create basically like a nonprofit organization where we can help educate them of their self-worth, because a lot of it, is very much driven to cultural history of, like, I mean, we've had the Spaniards and the Americans come and take over, and Filipinos were used to being followers, right? And now it's just about time for us to really wake up and realize, okay, what are our collective strengths and, what you're really worth? Look, you can literally negotiate a higher income, even if you live in the Philippines, because as long as you have the skills that they are looking for, right? So I want to educate people about that because that's certainly what I experienced. And that's what drove us to bring our family back here. And also, I love my children. I think it's important that they recognize their privilege. I am very much aware that because of our business and the freedom that we have with regards to our time and our location, we're definitely a lot more privileged than a lot of people. But it's actually really hard to show that. So when I was in Canada, I was showing my children all these documentaries about, other people suffering in different parts of the world, right? Because that's where I came from. I grew up in a country where I saw poverty. It's hard to see poverty in Canada. Even people who are living in the streets have soup kitchens that they can rely on, but it's the poverty that I saw growing up was so different. We didn't even have, soup kitchens for the poor. And I wanted people, my children to recognize how privileged they are, but I found it hard to actually educate them without them physically seeing it. And so I decided, like me and my husband, we decided to fly them here so that they can get in touch with our culture, our heritage as well. But also, for them to recognize that how privileged they are and think about different ways that they can actually use their privilege for helping other people, especially other children, But yeah, so it's more of an experiential learning for my children. That's why we were very motivated to move them here rather than, sunny Australia, for example. So that's the whole reason why we decided that.
Oh, man, that's beautiful. I mean, hey, are we going to be inspired today or not, people, whoever's watching? That is beautiful. Awesome, man. Okay, well, hey, I know we talked a lot about business endeavors and just life and everything like that. I don't know. Do you want to transition into these topics here?
Yes, let's do it.
So excited.
The juicy topics.
Juicy stuff. Like, why are you so excited to come talk about the juicy stuff on today's page?
Well, first of all, you don't get another woman to just come up to you and say, hey, let's talk about God, sex, and love. So I love that kind of conversation. I think it's important to have that conversation. A lot of my relationship with God, sex, and love was more intuitive and more driven by my own personal thoughts and really just reflecting having that conversation with God, what's right, what's wrong, I didn't really have that conversation with my mom or my sisters, except like I remember when my sister was having issues, like she would reach out to me and help. And she was so surprised that we were talking about sex, for example. And when in fact you should be like, who else are you going to have that conversation with but other women that you trust, right? So it's definitely much needed. That's why I was like, hey, I'm excited. Let's talk about this.
Exactly, man. Again, same for me. It just was like one of those things where I tell my story all the time. So my apologies if you heard it already. But long story short, as a single Christian woman, it was kind of difficult because I was like asking those same questions, being like, Lord, what do you want me to do? I'm worthy. I feel some way. I feel like, and it's like, I'm still a woman. What do you want me to do?
How do I shut it off? Like they tried to shut it.
Well, just take it away then. Take these desires away. And that obviously didn't happen. And it was like one of those things that so when I was looking for content around those times, and I felt like the Christian conversations would only go so far. And I feel like I couldn't relate to the conversations that were being had at that time. So I want to say, I mean, it's been a beautiful thing. I feel like, well, my whole experience thus far with GSL has been just, it blows my mind every time I meet somebody and talk to somebody and everything, because not only did I kicked it off by challenging myself to Bible study every day, so then I could give like daily inspiration. So, so Monday through Saturday, that's something that I do.
I know,
So
I
that was
heard
great.
it. Love it.
Yeah, you know, oh, thank you. Get the juice, trying to get the juice to the people. Yeah. So that was like a personal challenge for me that I hope encourages and inspires other people, but it blesses me every day to do that as well. So it's just become this routine in my life now where my husband, there was one, I want to say maybe a few months ago, I might have woke up late and I just like, man, okay, everybody, sorry, no juice today, right? And so ever since then, he works late at night now. And so he'll be at work, but he'll call me like at the time that he knows that I'm supposed to get up. He's like, "Are you up?" I'm like, I'm up. He's
Oh,
like,
that's nice.
yeah, he's the contingency plan if my alarm, if I miss my alarm. But so anyway, but I shared it to say that it's become this like routine in my life now that and again, don't tell me that God can't change your life, because again, that was something that I thought about for so long. Like, I need a Bible study more. I need to take this time out for God and X, Y, and Z. And I just be thinking about it all those years, and then finally kicked it off in 2020. Was like, you know what? I'm gonna get up in the morning. I'm gonna be intentional about doing this. And what's gonna hold me accountable is that I'm gonna give daily inspiration to people after I do this thing. And so that's where all of that kicked off. And it was crazy because for me, I kicked off the podcast, which again, deeper story. Everybody already knows the story. Anybody that watches it, oh, everybody's rolling their eyes now. They're like, oh, he's telling it again.
No, they love hearing it.
He's telling it again. But yeah, so kicking off the podcast led to everything else, even including this. And even including like the books and things like that I published, which was a goal for so long. Like since my 20s, I was like trying to figure out how can I publish books. And then like last year, I just was like, boom, he gave me all the information, and I'm like, no stopping me now. Next book, next book, next book. Got many more ideas and stuff too. So, but anyway, yeah. So just challenging myself has led to this, and it's led to all these awesome conversations and all these amazing people that I've met, including you now, and around the world. And it just blows my mind every time that like this is my life now, as they say. This is all I'm doing. I feel like I'm literally living by faith. I'm allowing God to just, lead me, guide me in all aspects of my life, including my career, and
Love it. Yeah.
he's just been making a way, and it's crazy to think about that I'm not doing a 9 to 5 or whatever, but I'm over here trying to push my husband into it too. I'm like, hey, hub, you see what God is doing for me. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, find a way to hustle from home too, or find a way to do something that you feel led to do versus being, but I don't know. And I know it's not for entrepreneurship may not be for everybody, but it's just something that I gravitated to. I think I've witnessed it in my family growing up and whatnot. So I guess it's something that I didn't mind doing for myself if I had to. And by the grace of God, not me, by the grace of God, I've had a lot of opportunities when it comes to that I've created. if that makes any sense, put it like that. So,
Yeah.
so this is one of them. You know, obviously this was something that was on my heart and mind for years. Started off with me being single and trying to figure out like, what do I do? You know? And then from there, you know, it's been these amazing conversations and whatnot. But I'm glad that it resonates with you, and that is something
Mhm.
that that you can see that it's definitely needed, especially in the Christian community. Because I say this all the time too. Like the more that we don't talk about these things, and the more that we try to leave God out of both sex and love and everything
Mhm.
else, because we just established that they try to take God out of everything, right? That the more that, as they say, the enemy is gaining territory in these other areas, and then we see the results all around us of what that looks like, and you know,
Absolutely.
and everything like that. So, girl, these my topics now. I go on and talking about those details and whatnot. But but yeah. So okay. So did you deal with that type of thing as a single woman as well, or not really? Because you kind of got married in your 20s, and so
Yeah, I got married in my when I was 21. Well, certainly I remember even just having a crush when I was about 14, 15. I remember someone at church was like, "Don't do that. That's bad. You're only 15. You're not even supposed to have a crush." And I just felt so horrified, because just the idea of even just liking someone felt wrong. And I think that's the problem why a lot of women often have issues when it comes to the conversation around sex and your sexuality, your femininity. It's because of that whole fear that, the wrong beliefs that people have that they kind of put towards you, right? And obviously this person who said this was a guy, was a man, like a man from church or whatever. But yeah, so it was really interesting. I also attended when I was growing up. I also attended a Catholic school. I'm not Catholic, but a lot of private schools in the Philippines were Catholic school types of schools. So obviously, you kind of imagine what it's like, and it's an all-girls school, by the way.
mm,
So we were taught to not, put an attention towards you, try not to act a certain way because it might give off someone the wrong impression. And obviously that carried into, just being this guarded person. Like imagine yourself walking and not even swaying your hips, like the natural sway of your hips because
yeah,
you're told not to act a certain way, right?
yeah,
And I remember like all, coming from an all girls school and just my mom was the breadwinner of the family, even though she was married, unfortunately she was not in a supportive marriage.
mm,
She was like the breadwinner. So my idea of what it was to be a strong woman was a lot like what a lot of us think a strong, independent woman who's got herself, right? But
mm,
came with that, So I remember when I started dating my husband, we had this conversation. So we were just dating. And I was like, well, you don't need me. He was like, there was this other girl, like like young love drama, right? So there was this other girl I remember, and this other girl was like super crazy about him. And I was like, look, you're right. I don't need you. Because I gave off that vibe where I didn't really need him. Like, look, if
mm,
you want to be part of my life, that's good. And I'm saying it's actually good or healthy. I think I've set a certain healthy boundary, but I'll share a little bit more about where it becomes a problem. So,
mm,
I've made it a point to show my husband that when we were dating, you're right, I don't need you. I'm not reliant on you. I can take care of myself, right?
mm, mm,
And that's fine. And I think even to an extent as a woman, even when we're married, we have to have a level of independence.
mm,
But where it became a problem was I remember in the first year of our marriage, and we were encountering all of these financial hardship, we were getting paid minimum wage, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking, wow, this sucks. This is all your fault, because I'm thinking about my strong, independent background. And I'm
mm,
like, I don't need this. I don't need this man is just a baggage, like
mm,
that's how I saw it in the beginning. And that's where it's a problem because obviously, if you want to make your marriage work, you cannot see your husband that way, right? And I remember, I was feeling, and it also is a lot about my insecurities. I remember when I got married, uh, I'm pretty sure people who got married will understand this. It's like there's a time in your life where you realize, oh my God, I'm not single anymore. I'm not just dating around. I'm
mm,
actually married, committed to this person. Who am I? Like all of a sudden, there's like this shift in identity. Like, who am I now? What are the lines? What are the things that I can and can't do? You
Mhm.
know, and what are the dreams that I've signed off? You know, like the moment that I said yes to this person, like there was a time where I was really questioning who I was. And a lot of it, I remember I had like a spree where I was just feeling very deeply insecure about myself, because I was seeing all these other, people my age, especially, people who were in their 20s, early 20s, who were dating around, having fun, living life. And my life was so different because I was married and we actually have to figure things out, like pay bills and stuff like that. So I was wondering who was I, and I was almost insecure about the life that the other younger girls had, that didn't really have this responsibility that I had. And I remember I was like, okay, I need to find my independence again. I was like, I need to be this independent woman that I was before I got married. And I remember I was looking up with different, are you familiar with meetup.com? It's like,
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, so meetup.com is basically like a place where you can look for groups or communities in your local area that talks about certain topics, or, have the similar interests and stuff like that. And I remember typing like, what was that? Like feminists and stuff like that. I was looking for a feminist group to kind of help me revive that independence, right?
Mhm.
And I actually found this group called Feminine Radiance, and I was like, okay, interesting.
Mhm.
And I attended this group, and I was so surprised because I was expecting like women saying, hurrah, we don't need men and stuff like that. And like just try to remind me that I'm independent and I'm strong. And yet
Mhm.
that group was all about reconnecting with your feminine side. And
Mhm.
feminine side was all about receiving, right? So here's the feminist movement telling you that you don't need a man, you can do whatever you want, go
Mhm.
get it for yourself, queen. Like they would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that. But the
Yeah.
feminine radiance is all about remembering your feminine side, meaning your ability to actually receive, right? Are you
Mhm.
willing to accept help? Because if you look around you, like it was teaching such a different mindset. Men are actually willing to protect and support and serve you. Why
Mhm.
would you go out and claw your nail to achieve a goal when
Mhm.
a man out there is so willing to support and help you achieve your goal in such a way where you're gracefully being elevated, right? I was like,
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
so different. And so my mindset there was, that day just shifted me. And I
Mhm.
studied more about what it means to get in touch with my femininity, with my feminine side. And I realized I was so out of touch with it because, like I said, I was brought up where, you're kind of scared to even sway your hips because you might catch unwanted attention. People might think you're WHORE, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I realized, you know what, it's actually okay to embrace this side of me, to embrace, it's okay to dress sexy, and just own it. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I'm craving for attention, it just means I'm appreciating and I'm loving myself. And
Mhm.
I see the beauty and I'm accentuating it, and that's fine. And that's kind of where my story about it, I started diving deep into how I can embrace more my feminine side, my sexuality, and especially, as a Christian, what did the Bible say about this? Did the Bible look? God created man and woman, right? If He wanted a woman acting like a man, He wouldn't have created a woman in the first place.
Hmm. You go ahead and drop the mic, Miss Page. Go ahead and
Boom!
yes. Look, there's so many things you done said tonight. It's just I'm just gonna keep saying it's beautiful because it just sounds beautiful to me. Okay, so first you started off with your childhood, right? And then the things that you were raised. And that's the thing, like I think it's definitely needed. You know, there definitely needs to be women, right, that are helping the young women and teaching them to be women, right? Like I think that's definitely needed. And I think there should be balance, right? Like I don't think it should be so much because okay, obviously it took me a while to learn and understand that okay, well, sex itself isn't bad, right? It's
Mhm.
just don't do it out of order, right? Like or just don't. And so again, when you're raised in a certain way and you're raised like thinking that like you say, your crush was a bad thing or whatever.
Yeah, my
It's
goodness.
like goodness, like what? And that's why I said I was always like, like, what am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do with this? I feel whatever I feel, and I feel like I'm not supposed to. So why aren't you taking it away, Lord? And all those different questions that I had back in my single days. So that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there just needs to be more women to, take younger women under their wings, teach us how to be women, and all of that, and sounding like, hey, like that group. I mean, by the grace of God, He led you to, I guess, the right group, right? And
Yeah.
encourage and inspire you to you know I guess, how can I say, like, maybe bring down some of those walls in regards to
Mm-hmm.
that you have between
Oh
you and your
yeah,
husband.
absolutely. Yeah. And realize that my husband was not hindering me from my dreams, but that he's there to actually help and support me. To be able to trust, I think a man, especially your husband, is so powerful in a marriage because you accomplish so many things so much faster when you're a united front rather than just being divided. And that also comes with the responsibility of, look, you have cravings, and I'm pretty sure your husband has cravings too. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with it. You just gotta do it. There's a certain way, and that God taught us to do it, right?
Exactly.
And I think just having that conversation with I let me like I remember having actually a conversation with my husband because I mean, like I said, I think this is not a surprise, but I got married at 21, and I remember, growing up from a Catholic school and attending church. We were like really heavily guarded. He was my very first everything, like, yeah. And so I definitely had to have that guts because I was thinking about it, like, okay, like I remember when I was 18 and I was still a virgin, and I was thinking, okay, when I end up having a relationship with someone, I need to be open and upfront about these things, right? I can't be pretending that I've been doing it, especially, I was in Canada. It's like a normal thing of the culture, right? So I really needed to find a way to have that conversation ahead of time. And I think inserting that faith conversation in there is so valuable already. Thankfully for me, talking about my faith is so natural that I would always say, look, this is what I believe in. Therefore, this is what I stand for. And, I definitely had to bring up that conversation. It was uncomfortable. It's like, oh, what is this guy going to think? You know what I mean? But it really sets the pace, especially for a marriage. Especially we're going to be married for what, 9 years now, this coming July. And after having two kids, you need to find ways to keep the sex life alive and healthy and interesting and,
Yes, ma'am. You right.
Mhm. So I mean, who else are you going to have fun that way with? So you really have to be completely open. And if it means, trying out new things together, whatever, you know.
The marriage bed is undefiled, as they say. Like, and that's the thing. It's like, new segment coming out soon, y'all. Or by the time this come out, it'll already be out. I have a new segment coming out, where this is, I know it's gonna sound taboo, a Christian
Yeah.
sex toy company, and well, not sex toy company. It's a Christian store that provides intimacy
Hmm.
enhancements and whatnot, in a Christian way,
Fun.
nudity. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
get lingerie there instead of like seeing models in lingerie. You just look at the lingerie, and you know what I mean, that type of vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're partnered and whatnot. We have a segment coming out where we're going to be talking about more ways to connect more together.
Look, we've made trips. Me and my husband, I mean, thankfully, my mom's not listening to this, but who cares if she is? But we've had date nights where we literally made it a trip. Look, we're going to go to this shop and we're going to find something interesting and quirky and fun. And we're going to go eat out. you know,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
It's, and that's the thing and I think that's what kind of, I mean, girl, so many things that you said earlier when you're talking about like the distance between you and your husband at one time where you felt as if, okay, I need to not only just be independent, but then the whole "I don't need you" thing, and then how he felt the way about that. It reminded me of a conversation that I had with my husband at one point. I think it was after I got pregnant, and I was talking about oh, what's this gonna look like? What's life gonna look like? And I was just telling him, things that I thought that was gonna change. He
Mhm.
was like, well, you forgot something. And I was like, what did I forget? He's like, you forgot
Mhm.
about me.
Mm.
And that was one of those things that I guess put in perspective, like, that he was there as well to assist me, that I wouldn't
Yeah, yeah.
be like a single mom, or anything like
Mhm.
that. He was there. And so yeah, sometimes we have to, remind ourselves of that, that, like
Mhm.
you said earlier, in a very beautiful way, I must add, that, they are there to, just like we are there to assist them, they're there to assist us, and it's
Mhm.
a mutual thing. And that's why it's very important, whoever you decide to marry, that, like, that is, because I can't even imagine, like, if this, I, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation if I had married somebody else,
Yeah, yeah.
he encourages me, he supports me, he pushes me, to go beyond like the whole daily inspiration thing. His idea, because back when I was like, oh, maybe I'll just once a month I'll do a podcast, once a week. Like, what do you think? He's like, well, really, people you should do it every day. And I'm like, every day? What do you mean? But yeah, now, I mean, I do take that Sunday. I don't do it on Sundays, but at least I take. But yeah, so yeah, man, it's been a blessing to be a wife. I'm definitely, it was one of my goals as well, and I think about that too, because I had a lot of career goals and things, and it was like, well, and sometimes it comes to my mind. I think probably like the adversary or whatever, trying to get in my head about different stuff, and it's like, well, are you happy, right? Just, are you happy being a wife? Are you happy, with things going the way that they are, versus, again, because you think that you can't have both, or when you think whatever, but like I said, so yes, I can relate to what you were saying regarding that, and then even with this conversation about the sex in the marriage and whatnot. Again, I don't. Okay, so here's some this might be TMI. Oh well, basically, I don't, you know, me and my husband, we had to kind of find like balance with, because obviously I had this drive, whatever, so and it seems as if my drive is higher than his at times. And I think this one of the blessings is that I think by doing all the other little things I do now, it's not as heavy on me anymore, because it used to bother me a lot. Like,
Mhm.
you know, feeling that difference and then not knowing what to do, and like, or feeling as if, because I feel like I'm very considerate. Like, I don't just, I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I won't wake him up because he got to go to work. So,
Oh no, wake him up.
like, like I'm too considerate, right? I'm too considerate. And it's like, so then I'm over there like,
He would wake you up. I mean, let's be fair. He would wake you up.
that's true. He would. Yeah, there are times that he would. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, this is what we're doing. Got it. But yeah, so yeah, I was trying to find balance with that at one point, because it was like, because it would get, it could be something that hinders you, because you're supposed to, this is the time in your life where you're supposed to be exploring in this area. Like this,
Mhm.
your husband is supposed to be, it's even, I refer to this verse a lot, where it's like, the verse where it's like, come together, and y'all can decide when y'all want to take
Mhm.
the break in regards for prayer and whatnot like that. But after that, come on back together, because
Yeah.
do not let them get into y'all situation. And so, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and hey, husband, your body belongs to me, my body belongs to you, all that. I love those verses. Those are great verses to me.
Look, it says in the Bible. You got to do this.
I'm just talking about Bible. And that's the funny thing, though, because I've had so many conversations. I believe I've had some conversations with unbelievers on here, and they're saying all these things, but I think they feel like it's in the Bible, or the narratives that are pushed
Mhm.
about what the Bible says about sex. Like one of them, one of my previous guests was like, "Oh yeah, because sex was only, the Bible believers teach you that sex is only for the man or whatever, and it's only for procreation and all that." I'm like, that ain't what I
No.
read.
If it were just for procreation, it wouldn't be pleasurable. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
get it in, get it out. That's it. You know what I mean? But God didn't make it that way. There's a reason why we find pleasure in it.
Mhm.
So, mm,
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, I think there's just so many different taboos when it comes to sex. And it's like, again, I get that, again, when when we talk about the name God, Sex, and Love, I get that it's weird to a certain extent, but at the same time, it shouldn't be because God made sex, right?
Hmm.
And so why are we keeping him? And I think that's the problem. We keep him out of the scenario.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's like, then you just have what you see in porn or what you see,
Hmm.
all around us in regards to the effect of having godless sex, if you want to put it that
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
So, but anywho, yes, we can talk about the married side, since we both look, high five, sisters.
Yeah.
Yes, praise God for. I mean, hey, man, I'm definitely enjoying this season of my life. I think it's like things that I like hoped and prayed for so long, where I'm like, I'm finally here. I'm here, y'all. I'm here. And so I definitely have a heart for single people, especially if like they want to be married or they want to be in a relationship and stuff. I'm like, it can happen for you, man. It happened for me.
Hmm.
I was out there praying. I was out there single, being like, Lord, it's hard. Where my husband at? All that stuff. And now we're like, yes, Lord. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the relationship that I have with my husband, because I want to say meeting him was like confirmation for me in a lot of ways. And I've been so careful to like thank God for that for this relationship. And I feel like perhaps in my past, I probably made those other individuals the everything. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
maybe I include God, and whatnot. And so, but yeah, since him, I'm like, Lord, I just want to say thank you because I know you sent him, right? So I just want to let you know that I didn't forget you in this situation. Right? Don't take him away. Don't take him away. I acknowledge you. I'm always going. But yeah, girl, okay. So here we go. Here we go. I feel like I always say this, but Paige, you seem like someone I can sit here and talk to all night. So I'll just turn it back to you and say, if there's anything you would love to share with us before you go, what would that be?
Well, if there's anyone here who's actually single and looking for, a better relationship with God, a better relationship with your sex life, and how to attract better love, then I really think this is something that you have to commune with God and have that conversation. Like, honestly, I remember I tell this story when I was just dating my husband. I think it was about like 2 weeks in our dating scenario. I literally had all of these difficult conversations up front. And I think, for some people that's like, oh, scary. Like I was literally like, look, if you like, we need to talk about these things. And if we just don't see eye to eye, or we don't feel like, you know what I mean? Like you gotta know what your values are. I definitely want to have like a good sex life. I don't want to be in a marriage stuck in a dry sex life. You know what I mean? You gotta have these conversations. And I remember he was pretty shocked too, because for the first time, a woman actually opened it up, right? But it's important to have these conversations so that you know that you're compatible in faith and in love and in your sex life. So have that conversation. And, if you want to also work on your money mindset and your baggages around money, if that interested you in the first part of our talk, you can always, hey, look, maybe we can come back and have that conversation, particularly centered on, how to deal with unnecessary baggages around money. I'm definitely up for that conversation. And you can also look me up on Instagram and on Facebook. Just type Page Rey, Pajerey. I also have YouTube videos talking about, some of the things that I stand for. So hopefully you will get in touch.
Yes, you're definitely welcome to come back anytime. I mean, like I said, I'd love to have you back for maybe some of the girl chats and stuff with some more ladies, and we can talk about all this stuff or whatever. But I truly, truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so, so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Miracle. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching God, Sex, and Love. And thank you to the lovely Miss Paige Rey for joining me for this conversation tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button and share. We truly, truly appreciate you checking us out here on God, Sex, and Love. We hope that you all enjoyed the content. Until next time. Bye bye.
That I'm